this evening. Let me know how you all are. Tonight we're going to have the Tchouameni and Baleba discussion tonight. We're going to have the verses of the two players because I don't think we're going to get both, but we're going to be looking at the profile of both players. We're going to be talking about both players as well. I think it's an important debate to have between those two players. So look, welcome to the show. I hope you're all doing extremely well this evening. Look, first thing that says, look, thank you for those of you who have sent some kind some words to me. Look, I fell over. Shoulder is screwed. Look, it is not great. But look, the show must continue. But look, thank you to those who've sent in some kind words. And look, I wasn't going to do a show tonight, but full of painkillers. And after the last couple of days that haven't been great. I'm okay. Kate Scott says no. So long story short, I was out for a run. In this country, the potholes are absolutely awful, and fell over one. The hips are fine. It's just the shoulder. It's bruised from like all the way down there. It's a mess. Luckily, nothing is. There's a tear there, but it could have been worse. So it could have been worse. It just means that I'm not allowed to run for the next couple of weeks. And it just really hurt. So look, it wasn't me being an idiot. Just went for a run. Pothole there, and yeah, so so that's me done for the next couple of weeks. So look, tonight, guys, get into this amazing community, bro. How you feeling after your fall, Colin? Feel well. Immediately afterwards, you feel like a bit of a brat because obviously, you're falling over. Look, I'm an experienced runner. I've run for a very, very long time. Normally, fine, but for whatever reason, just managed to hit this one. Fell over. Lucky. I was very, very fortunate. Very, very fortunate. I didn't break something. I didn't smash my head. Didn't break an arm but just my shoulder. Absolutely screwed. So but thank you. Yeah, so look, let's get into this video tonight. Like, get into your comments from what you've heard throughout the day as well. This is your show. I wanted to come in and have the Tchouameni and Baleba debate tonight. I think it's going to be interesting to look at both players. I think there's one player of the two that I think that will definitely go for, but I'd be interested to know who of the two would you guys like to go for. And look, let's get into the whole thing. So Tchouameni seems to be picking up a lot of pace now. I think we've been linked to him. Good point. Let me put it up there as a poll. Okay. I'm going to be very, very slow because I can only type with one arm. Let's go for this. Let's go for Tchouameni. Let's do that. Let's do that in there. Boop. And Baleba as well. Let's do Baleba. Let's put that in there. Okay. All right. Put that in there. Who do you choose? Tchouameni or Baleba? Right, put that in there into the chat. Paul says Tchouameni all day. Tchouameni would be a great addition to the squad. Awesome. So let's go through the profiles of the players. You keep telling me your opinions, and we will go from there. So look, who is he? 26. So of a primate. Now Paul says he hasn't been having a good season. So Carlos Baleba. Now the first thing I wanted to say around him, Paul, is this. Look, there is a rhetoric around him that I don't know where this has come from. Now, look, is he having the best of seasons? No. Is he playing this season? He is playing. Now, his stats this season are elite. There is no question. And as we go through the profiles, and as we go through them, his stats this season are elite. Now, even I will admit, look, he's come to an age whereby he's going to have to start to progress. But there is this misnomer. There is this, I believe, this misinformation about him this season, that he's not having a good season, that he's not been great. He's still having a good season. Like, his stats are elite. Is he the same player that he was last season? No, but don't forget, still a youngish player. Disappointment, and again, that can work against a lot of people as well. But at the same time, he just had a fantastic season last season, but he's still having a good season. But we will get through it as well. Can you remind me your thoughts on whether... No, we're not going through that, but nice try. Being put off by Baleba not even getting into to Brighton's side. Look, I get that completely. I do. But look, we will go through all that stuff now. So look, Tchouameni, who is he? So defensive midfielder number 6. Now, what he is, and I think this escapes people, which I think United, if they are, which I suspect that some of their people are good people, is that Sully says, why not both? Exactly. He is a hybrid. He is a hybrid number 6 centre-back. That's what he is. He's not a... Look, he is at 26 years old, I think he's a wonderful player. Let's have a little look. Tchouameni is best in class. Good point. And Colin, I don't disagree with you at all. I don't. If we are going to go for best in class, he's the one that I would go for. I've complete centre back DM, and CM says, James, exactly. If it makes you feel better, JB, I can't type as well. I was building something and I was screwing around in the drive, slipped and took a chunk out of my thumb. Says Scott, mate. It happens to us all, buddy. And look, and as he said there, James, he is a modern centre midfield centre back. So for me, I think playing for Real Madrid, 26 years old, I think for me that absolutely, ultimately tick. Sully says was one of the last big signings Madrid made, £100 million. I can't remember. I don't think it was 100 million for him, was it? I think it was reasonably high, but I don't think it was that much. Somebody can tell me in the chat. So, look, 26 years old. So he is not a destroyer type. So Carlos B is he is a pure destroyer, athletic type. So Tchouameni isn't. He is a ball-winning, elite positioning, interception, fantastic player. He wins in the air. I think he is a. I think what gets underrated with him as well is I think that he's very intelligent. I think he's got a very, very good IQ as well, which makes me question why Madrid want to sell the player. You guys can give me your opinions on that as well. Look, he controls the he controls the tempo. He's not a playmaker. He's not necessarily a progressive playmaker, but what he is defensive, mobility, physical, clever. He can play as I said, they can play anywhere between centre back, defensive midfielder. I'd even probably argue that number 8 position, more of a defensive number 8. Think more of a sort of, I'd probably say more of that Tchouaméni role. But look, he is a fantastic player. 30 appearances, 2,200 minutes. Look, he doesn't score goals. Look, he is not about goals. What he is about. This is the 19. Now I'm going to get this wrong. I think this is the 1982-83 season. I think that's what this is from. I think it is. I might be wrong, but I'm sure it's 1982, 83, 83, 84, something along those lines. So Tchouameni, look, he is the number 6 hybrid player that I think that we need. Now, look, he excites me more than a Camavinga. I think if we're looking for best in class, and this is what we are talking about here, look, he is best in class. Bang says hello, my friend. Yeah, this is elite. This top. Look, he is about control, defensive structure. I think if you get this player in, you are going for elite. When we've been talking about Tonali, we've been talking about an Anderson, Tchouameni and Sully. I think you're right. Yes, it is. This is the away kit. I think you're spot on, Sully. I think he could benefit from a change. I think if he comes to this club and he comes in and we're able to pull off this deal, that to me is a sign of this club is a serious club. Look, this is a serious player. When people talk about players, this fan base seems to be obsessed with a Tonali, an Anderson, a Wharton, those sorts of players, all fantastic players. Tchouameni gets underrated, and I think Sully, I think you are right. Look, I think that he would be a phenomenal player. I think he'll be a very, very underrated player, and I think for once in the last. Now, James, good question, because this is what I was going to come on to as well. I do have this. So, injury wise, as the Turbo says, this kit is fantastic. Now, injury wise, he is not injury prone. So the good news, the fantastic news about this player is this. Look, any absences that he has are very, very short. And I think he's had, in the last year, he's had November 25, hamstring, but that was for 3 weeks. 2026, he had a minor absence. This was rest. In 25, short leg issue. So he's been, since November 2025, he's had 2 weeks off. So, when we are talking about, players, and because we are very, very good at accumulating these injury-prone players, Amir is in the house. Lee says, how do you think England would do in the World Cup, Lee? England should be getting to a final. From what I've seen so far, Tuchel, if he can pick the right squad, look, England have to be in there. England have got to be into the last 4. Do I think that they can win it? Look, I think they've got to be one of the favourites to win it. Can they win it is another question, but I think England will have a decent shout. I think they'll get to at least quarterfinals, semi-finals. I am Welsh, so I'm not English. So I am Welsh, so I can enjoy the World Cup. I've got an unbiased view on the World Cup as well, by the way. So no, James, you 100% have to ask, because that's one of the first things that I ask as well. Let me go through the chats as well. Are you owing in? I don't know. Tchouameni could benefit from a change. I do agree. I'm not a United fan, but I support the Red Devils. San Siro, thank you. It's a proper Casemiro replacement. Forza Milan, yes. What is the Tchouameni? Yeah, we've done that one. How do you think England will do? Done that one. If Madrid are willing to sell, it has to be done. I want to take a photo for style first. Try asking Google what year the jersey is. I will. I had to. Yeah, of course. I'm English, but I live in South Wales. Alex, legend. I am Welsh and live in England. I've lived in England now for the last, Jesus Christ, 27 years. So I know where that is as well, Alex. So big up to the Welshies. So look, Tchouameni. Let's go through some of the metrics. Let's go through some of those stats because I think it's really important to talk about those as well. So interceptions this season, where does he rank? One of us. So look, 106. So look, he ranks in the top 10 in La Liga for interceptions this season. Look, read whatever you like into that. La Liga, you can say good league or bad league. He's number one, and if this tells you anything about the player, Tchouameni is number one in the Champions League for interceptions. Now, when we are looking for Champions League players, Tchouameni is number one in the Champions League for interceptions. That is all you need to know about this player. In terms of passing lanes as well, so when you're looking out, when we're being passed through, he is again number one across leagues for that. So cutting out those passing lines. 26 years old, in his prime, intelligent guy, and this is why I rate him so highly. Now look, in terms of duels, look, the one-to-one duels, look, those are not elite stats. But again, as we say, he's not necessarily a ball winner in terms of, like trying to go in for those rash attacks. He's more of a controller of the ball, cutting out the pass before it goes to the player. Look, he's still got a 66% rate in his duels, so he wins more than he gets beaten. It's not solid, but it is elite. Now, overall position in the world, look, he is one of the, I would say, progressing into one of those now elite players. The likes of, the kind of old established top 2 or 3 players as they get older. He's coming in to his prime. Now look, defensively as well, I think this, so like, he's got yellow cards wise, he doesn't have any red cards this season, and he's played 30 games this season. That is the so that's the league and Champions League. It doesn't include the cups and that sort of stuff, but 7 yellow cards, 0 red cards. So look, in terms of that, I think he's look, for what he does, I think that's not a bad return on that. Now, Moss is in the house. Hello, Moss. So Toto said he doesn't dictate play. Well, look, I would say, for me, and look, people watch football in their own way. People have their own opinions and views. For me, he is an influential defensive monster. Now, you're right. He is not a controller of a game like a Tonali. That is not what his game is. He's not a controller, but he is a tempo controller in terms of, because he wins the ball back. Like a Kante, you've got your players who are controllers who will control the actual game. So a Tonali is that player. You know, he is more of an all-round conductor, controller. What he is, in my view, he's more of a tempo controller. So when the game is fast-paced and you need somebody to stick in a foot and just bring it down, which is not the same as a controller. When you control the game, you can dictate the game. He doesn't dictate the game. He helps you control and bring the speed of a game down, or if you need to quicken it up. But he doesn't control the entire game. Now, look, injury-wise, as we've seen, we've spoken about that as well. So look, he is elite from a defensive point of view, intelligent. His numbers are top tier. Look, he is coming into his prime, 26 in February, I think it was. He's physical in the air. He's fantastic, and more importantly, and I think this is possibly the most important number one thing for this club that we need. He is tactically flexible. And why is that important? Because we change our managers like we change our socks. Obviously, the Blues change there because obviously, they just love to sack a manager. But United, we are not far behind. So the reason why I like this player a lot, because tactically he's flexible. He's able to play CDM. He's able to play a centre-back. And what that means is that, look, we're then able to be tactically flexible in case people are out, as we've seen, and also in case we sack a manager. So, look, I like this player. I really, really like him. I think he is Europe's one of the top, you can argue top 10, top 5 defensive midfielders. But also what I like about him as well is he's flexible. He's tactically flexible and can play in multiple positions. So look, I'm going to get through the chats and then we can talk about price, and then we can talk about Baleba. So let's go through all of this stuff. Done all that one. Done is if we were ambitious, says Scott, we would get both. I do agree with you. Done that one. Done that one. The biggest problem with England has always been the coaches with the selections. If we have 200 mil for the midfield, we are United. Shouldn't be hard to get Tchouameni, Baleba, and another big one. Exactly. He says doesn't offer too much on the ball. Disciplinary, we've done that. David's in the house, legend. Hope you're doing extremely well, bud. Very good player in Benfica. Let's have a look. That's the jersey you wore 1982, 83. Yes. Yeah. I was right for once. Yes, I was. Herbie is in the house as well. I really like Baleba. He has he can't barely talk tonight. Really like Baleba, but he has not so good a season, but would be a risk given the huge price tag. The problem is that United don't usually come out on top when dealing with Madrid. We overpaid for Casemiro. Tom says we need an all-round midfielder. Look, Tom. Look, guys, get in your opinions. This is your show tonight. Please get in with your view. Tom, I agree with you. I agree, but I also think we need 3. I think we need an all-round midfielder. I think we need, look, if we are, or we are the elite club that we believe we are, then we need 3. We need at least 2 elite, and I would argue another 2. I think we need at least 1 sensational signing, and then I think we need another 2. Look, I think we're going to get 2. And in the instances of that, Tom, I think you're right. We're going to need 2 midfielders that can play multiple positions. So for me, Tchouameni will cover the defensive aspect. I think he's more of an all-round defensive centre-back, CDM, centre midfielder. And then we're going to need another Anderson top. Look, Anderson, in my view, is not going to come. But I think if we're only going to get 2, and I think Tom's right, I would want 2. I think we need 2 all-round midfielders. one who leans defensively and then one who leans more to the attack. That jersey will be expensive. It's rare. This is a jersey from a replica company, and they are really, really good. Cooper Miners, yeah, I like that player as well. Sally says so. Tchouameni, Baleba, and the other Wharton Stiller would be perfect with Tchouameni. I agree. We need a player like and Neves. I agree with you. I like Neves. Look, I like Neves. I've always liked him. I can't believe that we bought Ugarte and we let PSG go to get that player. So look, I am with you on that one. I think it's a travesty. I do. Will bring Tonali from Newcastle? Look, I'm going to say no, and the reason I'm going to say no on that is look, we've already distanced ourselves. There was a report put out about a month ago, and in that report, we basically said that one of our concerns for the Tonali deal, we put it out there, and I'm going to tell you from what it was, something along the lines of United were looking at Tonali last season, and we're not going to go for him. He was seen as somebody that we were looking at in the previous season, and one of the things that we're concerned about is the gambling stuff. So we've distanced ourselves. We have distanced ourselves from this player. Tonali is not going to come. Tchouameni, what's the most amount we should pay? Look, I think, as we're talking about that now, I think this price is going to be between 70, I reckon 75 and 90. I think we could get him for 70, 75 million. I think that's roughly, the right price. I think anything more than that, if we're touching 80 million, is that fair in today's market? You could probably argue yes. Am I bothered about paying 80 million pounds for him? No. I would be bothered if that stops us from getting another player. So I'm not too bothered about the price. Look, it's not our money. I'm bothered about, well, it is our money as fans, right? But I'm more bothered about, if we go and get this player, does it stop us from getting other players? And if it does, then it's wrong. We should look. These players don't come about that often. 2 years left on his deal. So look, he's not going to be top whack. He shouldn't be. But I think somewhere between 70 to 80, I think is about right. Now, Neil says they United or Villa to get third. I think Villa will get third. I do think they will. Let me get through the chat, and then I'm going to bring it down as to why I think that we possibly won't do the deal. Miss Arsden says, let's have a little look. So Carlos Baleba isn't good, and player development with our club not happening. That's why we went for Casemiro. We signed Maguire. City wanted him. Look how he turned out. Onana will return. He will. Why are people wanting Baleba? He's been rubbish all season. Look, Moss, I disagree with you, mate. I do. His stats are still elite. Like, there's this rhetoric on him. Look, there's this. I don't know where it's come from. Like, his stats this season are still elite. Look, he's still a good player. Like, has he had the best of seasons? No, but 22 years old, and look, I am not adverse, but I just don't buy into this whole he's been awful this season. I still think he's a great player, but rumour has it Onana is going to come back. He's Arsenal have bottled the league, says Brian. I think Arsenal has bottled the league. I do. Good evening all. So Baleba is the one season wonder. Now, on that, let me ask you, who is the biggest one season wonder? Who? You guys tell me. Who do you think, in your opinion, is a one season wonder, and who do you think is the biggest one? I've got my opinions on that as well, and I would love to know who you guys think is the biggest one season wonder player. Are we talking about Arsenal this season? They were 8 points clear of City, and now they're going 5 off their last games, and now City are up first. Edison, I like Edison as well. I do. I've heard that Madrid are looking at him as well. Hopefully he'll come back against Inter. You should go for Baleba, as I like Tchouameni at Liverpool, says Alex. So we've got Tchouameni, Baleba, Wharton and Stiller would be a dream window. I agree. Elite note, somewhat pulling case of Radcliffe. Hopefully Naya doesn't come back. Fernandes from West Ham would be a great sign. Look, I like that. Matthias Fernandes would be a great sign. I think it would be such a smart move, but West Ham are going to want big money for him. Even if United is looking to get at least 2 signings this summer, we've got to make sure they get the right pieces to become contenders for the league. Look, Brian, for us to be contenders, we've got to sign, I think, a minimum of 5. Look, we need to sign 2 midfield. We need at least 3, because look, let's concentrate just for a second on the midfield, right? We're going to be playing in the league, Champions League. We're going to be playing in the League Cup. And look, I want to go further than Grimsby. So we're going to go League, Champions League, FA Cup, the League Cup. When Casemiro goes, from a factual perspective of first team players, all we've got will be Ugarte and Kobe Mainu. Okay. We cannot go into 4 competitions, what's that, 65, 70 games potentially, with only 4 midfield players. Or 4. Because apparently Ugarte, look, if we go into next season with Ugarte, we've literally got 3 midfield players, because Ugarte is awful. We need at least 5 in there. And I don't mind if 4 of those are elite and one of those is like a youth player, then fine with that. But we are going to have to buy 3. We've got to buy 3, because if Ugarte goes or Ugarte stays, we need 3 midfielders. We need a striker. We need at least... Look, I love Shesko. On this channel, I support Shesko. I love that guy. I think he's going to be great. But we're going to need an elite striker. We're going to need a striker that can help a Shesko. We're going to need a right back. So that's already 5. We're going to need somebody to play on the left as well. Look, we're going to need at least 5 next season. So look, correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't mind you guys correcting me. This is your channel. This is your views and opinions. I think we need 5. I do. Harry says hello. Hello, Harry. Point is, we can get very good 3 if we were serious. Here we are, I'm back. We can get... look, I agree with you. Anderson, look, we should be in that hunt. What is he on? What's he gambling on? Liam Jacob says Liam Rossinia to United. Liam Rossinia to United. Thanks, mate. Ten Hag, after first season, one of 13 players. Sorry. Ten Hag, first season, one of 13 players. And of course, that didn't happen. He wanted centre-back Kim Jae. Yeah, correct. Striker Harry Kane. CM, left-back. Got Evans, Hoyland, and a bench warmer Mount. Look, you've summed it up. You have. Connor says United need a huge summer. Lots of problems to fix. Not sure we have. The finances are presented in with a big 7. 60 max, says Moss. If Madrid finish out of the top 2 in La Liga, the price will go down. Stewie says, I'm 100% certain Madrid is not crazy enough to sell Tchouameni. Why would they? He's arguably the best defensive midfielder in the world. I can't think of any reason why they would sell him. Look, those are the rumours. Those are the rumours out there. Madrid, look, at the end of the day, sorry, my arm is so sore. Look, Madrid don't have the endless pits of money that people think they do. If Madrid want to sign players, they still need to sell to buy. They still need to do that. So it might not be the fact that they want to sell the player. It might just be that they need the money. So, look, if I was them, would I want to sell the player? No, but look, that is the rumor mill that is going around. And I think he is on the table. He is, but I will give you my reasons. I'll go through the chats and then I'll tell you the reasoning why I think it may or may not happen, and then we'll go on to Carlos Baleba. It might just be me, but the price of players is completely outrageous now. Spending 30 to 40 million on a player is considered cheap. No, it is. Harry, agreed. The prices are ridiculous. Gary says, hi JB, what is the percentage chances of us getting? I would put it, if I was a betting man, I would right now would probably go 30 to 40%. But as you know, on this channel, I do a can we afford it meter rather than a percentage meter. But if I was to put a percentage on it, I would probably go around 30%. I think as of now, best CDM in the world, I don't think so. Are the Glazers interested in buying Spurs? Martin, I hope so. Van Persie. Surely signings will be weird this summer because of the World Cup. I can just see Rashford sitting on the bench next season, a bad smell. How long until Rosenior is sacked? He's been sacked and he would get sacked. So Gomez from Wolves must. I am all over that. For me, 5. You joking yet, Tom? Mate, we need 5. Are we going to get 5? No. So Bowen needs to leave West Ham. Liam Rosenior is sacked. Anyone else excited for the summer windows? Also, I thought we was in severe crisis. We are. I think that I almost think that people have a reset button when it comes to this club in this window. And this is the look. We've done a show. We do shows. Can we afford it? Right. I've got a can we afford it meter. That is very, very good, right? It shows us if we can afford players and how much money that we've got to spend. Look, this club, we've got to get into the Champions League. This transfer window, we don't have the ability. Well, okay. This window only, we will have the ability. And because don't forget, we've got to take into account here squad cap rules. So UEFA squad cap basically says that you can spend 70% of what you earn less. You've got your amortization, you've got your player fees, amortization, agents fees, right? Normally, it's 70%. This window only is the equivalent of 117%. So what that means, this window, we could probably spend in a region of about £400 million, roughly, right? When you amortize that back, in this window, we could probably spend about 150 to 175. What that means is it's not 175 in terms of the transfer fee. What that means is, if you think about this, if you sign one player for 100 million and his wages are 300k, and his fees as well in one window, in 1 year, that's probably the equivalent of about £35 million. So what I mean is, in this window, we could probably do four £400 million players ish on that wage. We're not going to do that because we can't, because we don't physically have the funds there, but we have the capability to do it. But financially, I don't know how we make that happen. So Gabriel to get some minutes, I hope so. Mount can play there. That's if Mason Mount is fit. Remember the pigeon. How will the World Cup hurt or help the summer signings? I think that they will. I think it will hurt us. I do. Blonde says we need Casemiro to stay for another season. Look, do you know what? I wouldn't be adverse to that. Look, I wouldn't be adverse to that. I've said this on this channel. And I said this about a month. I said this about 2 months ago. I got told this. Casemiro is going to leave, but United have asked him to defer until after the World Cup, where he's going to go, in case United wanting to stay. That's all I'm saying. Casemiro, I wouldn't be disappointed if Casemiro stayed as a backup only, but it has to be a backup only. Don't need Casemiro to stay. Let him go. In Boomer plays up top. And look, Tom, look, I agree with you, but we've got to have a striker. We've got to. If Carrick doesn't get the job, but the new guy plays better, more organised football, but finishes seventh, something to ponder. 3 signings, says Tom. Mate, at least 3, buddy. Mateta and Senesi, 3 midfielders. Look, I agree with you, Sully. Mateta on a free. I would go for him 100%. Senesi as well. I would go for those 2 players, Sully. I agreed. Isn't City going to Madrid next season? Rodri, I believe it's him. Van Persie was a 1-season wonder. Harry legend. So Brian says, I believe that I believe that United can reach the semi-finals in the Champions League next season, but it depends on the signs of Brian. I'd love to know. I'd love to know how you've managed to think that, my friend. Yeah, I would love to know. Rodri on free to Madrid allows. Yeah, Alex says, love the retro shirt. Thank you, my friend. I love this shirt as well. Alex says, thanks for letting me know. So look, Baleba. Let's talk about Carlos B. Let's talk about the legend that is Carlos Baleba. So look, 22 years old now, just turned, 6 foot tall as well. So look, he is how would I describe him as a player? So look, there's a rhetoric this season, as I've said this, that is doing the rounds, that he's suddenly this awful player. Look, he's not. His stats are elite still. Is he having the best of seasons? No. Is he having the worst of seasons? No. Is he still potentially one of the best young defensive centre midfielders today? My personal opinion on that is yes. Now look, what is he? So have a look at what we're saying. 22 years old, but look, and I think you make a good point. The development of players, I think you're right. He's 22. Do we have the ability to do that? And I think, do you know what, MS? I think you raise a very, very good point. I do. I think, and again, I've got to be fair, and I remember the things that I say. Now, I say the same with, a Shesko. You brought in a Shesko, and we've expected him to be this world-class striker. MS is right. If we bring him in, are we expecting at 22 for him to come in and be the best and be the leader that I'm expecting him to be? And MS, you make a good point. If we bring him in, we will need to bring in someone else who's able to help him in that midfield. Are we going to have a midfield of the likes of an Adam Wharton, a Carlos Baleba, and a Tchouaméni? Those three are young lads, and MS raises a really, really good point there. Are we? Is it too young? But look, I think you've made a great point. Brian says, if United gets 3 midfielders, they will have a chance to win the league next season. Is my opinion, and after the reason why I say 2 of the midfield will be gone after this summer. Look, Brian, mate, this channel, I'm not here to dismiss your views. I champion your views and encourage it. And look, Brian, you could be right. You could be 100% correct. And look, stranger things have happened. I thought that this season we'd finish somewhere between 8th and 10th. Look, we're currently 3rd. So, what do I know? So look, let's talk about him. So, Carlos Baleba, look, what is he? So, look, tackles per 90 is 3. It puts him up into the top 5 Premier League midfielders for tackles. Look, that is nothing to be sniffed at. So Neil says a false dawn. 3 tackles per 90. He's been doing that now for 2 seasons. Interceptions, 2 per 90. That puts him, again, he's still in the top 5 Premier League midfielders. Ball recoveries, 8 to 10 per game. That is top of the Premier League. That is elite. That is not just Premier League top 10. That is bordering on world-class elite. So in terms of recovery, in terms of interceptions, the tackles, he is elite. There is no question at all. He's been doing it now for 2 seasons. Premier League. Look, I know the Premier League this season hasn't exactly been the best, but as a yardstick, the Premier League I still think is, in terms of consistency and in terms of the depth, I think is still the best. If you can be in the top 5 top midfielders in the Premier League for any of your stats, you are up there. So look, tackles, he's in the top 5 for the league. Interceptions, he's in the top 5. Ball recoveries, he is elite. That is elite. Duels won, 60%. So look, again, he is in that top 10. Pass. So in terms of the accuracy of his passes, 85%. So again, it's not elite, but it is up there. Look, he's up there with some of the best to average passers. Progressive passes. Look, the one thing where he falls down is this. He is not a progressor forward. He is not a player who will get you that ball. He is not a Tchouaméni. He is not, like, he will win you the ball back. His passing in and around is great. What he lacks is that ability to transition the ball forward in a meaningful way. Look, he can win you the ball back, pass it off, fine. But what he can't do yet in his game, and this will put a lot of people off, because I think modern CDMs have an all-round game. His weakness really is progressing that attack. He will win the ball and he will look to pass it off to somebody who's got a better attack mind than him. As Sunil says, is he staying? Who's staying, buddy? Let me know. I don't know who's staying, my friend. So look, in terms of that, so look, he is a ball-winning machine. That is what he does. He wins the ball. He's a ball hunter. And says he is a ball hunter. He covers the ground extremely quick. He breaks up play. He is, for me, he is a Caicedo. He is a Kante. He is a Makalele type. By no means am I saying that he is as good as those players yet. He's 22 years old. He's 22 years old, and he is only just turned, and he is up there with some of the best tacklers of aggressive players in the Premier League. So KK says Tchouameni would be a club statement and a Rashford return. I agree with you. Tchouameni would be a statement for the club. Rashford, for me, look, I know people love him, and I am not here to tell people. Look, I am not here to tell people that they're wrong for that opinion. I think you are Rashford, you like him or not. My opinion is this. Look, how many clubs, once a player is gone, keep talking about players? Look, I know Rashford is technically still here, right? But when a player leaves on loan or a player leaves, we always do this. We always go, let's bring Højlund back. Let's bring Muck Sauce back. You know, let's bring these players back. Like, look, I know Rashford. People love a Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford's 29. Look, I think the best thing that should happen for me is Marcus Rashford should leave this club. Whatever happens, I think when he comes back, I think for us to progress forward, and I'm not just blaming him, I'm saying for him as well. If we are stuck with a Marcus Rashford, it is going to cause issues. I don't think he wants to be here, but I absolutely respect the fact. And KK, if you listen to what Carrick said, look, Carrick as well, Michael Carrick is a Southgate type. I don't think he wants him back. I don't think this club does. And look, you said yes, but who should we get as a left winger? Look, mate, there are other players out there. Like Marcus Rashford isn't it. You know, there are other players, and I mean, I can't. You know, I'm not going to name any now, but there are players. You know, Rashford isn't the answer. Like Rashford for me isn't the answer for the left wing. He's 29 years old. If he comes back, I will support the player. Like I'm not saying don't bring him back because I dislike the player. I'm not saying don't bring him back because there's any sort of animosity. I want to progress beyond him. I think as a team, as a club, if we bring him back, I think it's a failure, not on him, but on this club. And I think we've got to move forward. Scott says, I wouldn't support him. Look, everybody will definitely have their opinions on him. Yamal got injured today. May he gets a chance, but he is nowhere near the quality. Exactly. So look, let's get back onto Carlos B. So look, he is physical, breaks up. He is strong one-to-one duels. He wins second balls. He does win those second balls as well. Look, his strengths are these. Look, he recovers the ball, interceptions. He is elite. His defensive awareness is getting better. I think he is becoming a Kante type. He is resistant to press. There are not a lot of defensive midfielders of that type, and he is an athletic player. Look, he is this ball-winning defensive monster who I think is going to get better and better and better. I do. I really do. I just think he is if he goes to the right club at the right time with the right players, I think there you are getting an absolute elite player. Look, where is he weak? Look, he is not a progressive passer, creative type. You know, unlike Tchouameni that I think he is. You know, he can be that. I think he's a bit more creative. I think he can play centre back, CDM. He can play number 8 as well. He can pass between the lines. Carlos Baleba is pretty much a defensive monster. That he is a specialist player. When his IQ needs to get better in terms of that, trying to decide the final pass. I think sometimes that hurts him, and I don't think he is as good as that. And he's not a playmaker. You are not getting a player who's going to win that ball back, be aggressive. He'll be aggressive. He'll be defensive. He'll win the 1-to-1, but then it's what he then does with the ball. Instead of passing it to the side, pass it forward. So I think that's where he lacks. Look, so where do they compare? Look, we will do a comparison, and we'll talk about that. Let me go through some of these stats. Done that one. He would be not taking the piss, but think Carrick or Southgate will be United manager. Both like Rashford too, but I think it would be wrong to bring him back. On a plus point, it's not going to be Southgate. That's good. So Carlos Baleba is going to be elite. Would love him, and Alex Scott with Kobe. I would take Baleba, Wharton, and Scott. I like that, KK. See, I like that. That is probably something that I would do, because I think Tchouameni would be very, very expensive. I'm not saying no, but I just think it'd be very, very expensive. I think I would go for a Baleba, a Wharton, and a Scott. That is what I would do. But look, so look, let's compare the two. So look, when we're looking at the two, so look, both for interceptions are very high or elite. I think so Tchouameni, when we're talking about interceptions, tackles, look, he's strong to elite. Defensive IQ, he is elite. And when we're talking about positioning, so when we're talking about the defensive output and we're talking about positioning, we're talking about defensive IQ, he is elite. Carlos Baleba, that is where he falls down in terms of the defensive IQ and in terms of the positioning. Look, he's still a young guy. That can come. But where he is equal to a Tchouameni is the tackles in terms of interceptions. So what you are getting with the Tchouameni is you are getting pretty much what Carlos B can do, but you're also getting the IQ. You're also getting the positioning as well. So Tchouameni is basically an intelligent defender. With Carlos Baleba, what you're getting is you're getting chaos. You're getting the engine. You are getting the physical animal, the engine. That's something that Tchouameni isn't to say that he's not, but Carlos Baleba is that and some as well. Simon says, JB, I must admit that the Carlos Baleba played a blinder last night. Look, I'm telling you guys, Carlos B, if he comes to this club, he'll just be. Now, possession and progression of the two players. So look, in terms of pass completion, we'll start with Tchouameni as well. Look, pass completion, very, very high. Progressive passes, average. Carrying the ball, he's okay. Press resistance, he's okay. So look, that the possession and the progression of both these players aren't exactly necessarily elite, but they are good. Now this is where Carlos B comes into it. So pass completion, not as good as a Tchouameni. Progressive passes, he's good, but again, not as good. But this is where he is better in terms of picking up the ball and progressing the ball forward. in terms of being press, in terms of resisting the press, this is where Carlos B is elite. Like, he is elite at picking up the ball, running with the ball, not necessarily progressing their transit, not necessarily progressing the forward play in terms of that transition forward, but just picking up the ball, running with that ball, and the resistance to press. You know, imagine those balls over the top and Carlos B running back and mopping up that back four. Look, he breaks the line. Look, his final pass isn't great, but Carlos B is fantastic. Now look, physical, in terms of the physical and the ability to duel. Look, both of these players are quite equal. Look, they are both physical monsters. You know, they're both physically very, very good. They're both aggressive players. Look, you can't go wrong. You know, you can't go wrong with either of these players. So Carlos Baleba, for me, look, he is more aggressive. He is a little pit bull. He is that Makalele, that Kante type. He is a very raw, in my view, Makalele, Kante type of player. You know, he is volume. He's young. He can run for you all day. You know, when we're talking about players, one of the things that we talk about is players who are able to recover the ball. Now, if those of you who want Fernandez to stay, Carlos B, if you want Fernandez to stay, he will impact Fernandez's game so much because he will mop anything up. If you want that player who is going to enable Fernandez in some way, he is going to be that guy, because he's going to be, in fact, the pair of these guys. Because what you are going to get is you're going to get these physical players who are going to be able to mop everything up. But Carlos B, for me, he's going to be the guy. He will run for you all day long. And if you want somebody, when Fernandez loses that ball high up the pitch, he will win the ball back. So, look, you know, I think either one of these two players, for me, will be a changer. I think they will. I think if you're looking for players to take us to the next phase of what we're trying to build. Now, we can talk about Tonali's. I like Tonali and Anderson. I get that. But if you want more specialist players, Tchouameni, in my view, is probably a little bit more versatile, but he's still focused on that defensive aspects. And Carlos Baleba, he is just a ball-winning transition. He's just a monster. If you want, I can just see him in that red and just be an absolute monster. So look, when we're talking about these two players, I think one is elite already. So I think the question really is that can we afford either player? So let me see what you're saying in the chat, and then I'll give you my view and opinion on that. Baleba is going to be elite. I would take Baleba, Water and Scott. I agree with you. Good evening, JB says, I must admit that Carlos Baleba played a blinder. He did. He's playing shit this season because he wants a move. I think we signed Cunha and Bumo Sheska on installments. There is that. Look, every player, every club signs players on installment. Well, every club tends to do that. I can't pronounce that other guy's name, so I will call him Tchouameni. Easier to say. I love it. Riaz says, hello. Hi, my friend. My dream signing, brown smelly left back, Baleba, Tchouameni, Wharton, Stiller, Scott left wing is tricky because the market isn't there, and I agree with you. Should have kept Damerin. Look, I'm not necessarily going to get into that that debate, because I do like Ruben Amorim. I do. If you watched the show before, I was of the opinion that he is somebody that I would keep. But look, I'm not going to go into that tonight. So look, when we're talking about these two players, who do I think that we would get? Now look, whatever we think, oh my god, damn arm. Whatever we think, we've got to think about the money. Yeah, yes, exactly. Look, we've got to think about money. We've got to think about amortization. So, what's going to happen if I had to put my cash on it? And look, I'm not going to lie. I've reached out to people, and some of the things that I've been told on this, and no worries, mate. Sorry. No, look, mate. No, look. I'm not talking about it because it's a bad thing to talk about. I agree with you. I'm just not. If I start to talk about it on this show, TJ, we will be here all night. I'm not talking about it because it's a really good thing to talk about. We'll push it towards the end of the season, and then we can have that talk, because I think we need to. But look, I promise you, it's okay to talk about it. I reckon we've got 200 to 300 million this season. Now, I think we've got roughly, and this is including, okay, this isn't just transfer fees. This is amortization. This is the transfer fee. This is wages and agents' fees. I think we've roughly got about £220 million to spend to 250, roughly. So I'll tell you what I've been told. What a lovely couple of days in football. Wolves, Burnley, Leicester, Coventry, Lincoln champions tonight. Arteta must be getting grey hair now. I mean, that is crazy, isn't it? Leicester as well. I mean, Burnley, Leicester, Wolves. I mean, that is just crazy. Anderson is going to City, Rodri to Madrid, and we're going to get the Real Madrid player. Yeah, Anderson is going to go to City. Yeah, that is, I think, is right. So, what do I think? Look, I've been told this, and again, if you watch the channel, as soon as I know stuff, I will let you guys know. Carlos Baleba. I'm just going to say to you, look, watch Carlos Baleba. I think that's the deal. That's the deal that could get done quite quickly. He's not in the World Cup, so Cameroon are not in the World Cup. So Baleba, for me, look, if we are going to get him, and there's a very, very high chance, I think Carlos B is going to be the one, and I think we get him for roundabout. I think it's going to be for roundabout. I think he'll be 67.5, rounded up to 75 million. I think that's the deal. I think that's the deal that happens. I think Carlos B gets done for around 67.5 initially, rounded up to 75 million or something along those lines. I think we go and do that deal. I do. Simon says the best news today: Rafinha sacked and Fabregas lined up. I mean, Rafinha was a strange one anyway, so I don't quite understand the logic there on that one. But you know, if you was doing the transfer, who would you get for 250? Well, so I would say, so what's that? That's roughly about, blimey. It's difficult, KK, but I'll try to do it, because I've got to do it in terms of transfer amortization. So if I was going to do it, what I would do is I would get Carlos Baleba, say 70 million. Then I would probably go and get somebody like Wharton for another 70 million, or Matthias Fernandez. But if not, so I'd go and get Carlos Baleba for 70. I'd probably go and get Wharton for 70 or Stiller. So either one of those two. So Gomez from Wolves, I'd be all over that for 40 million. So what's that? Takes me up to 100. That takes me to 210, doesn't it? I think we've got more than that to play with. I'd then go for, I like Lewis Hall. I like Lewis Hall. I think we could do Carlos Baleba. I think we could do Adam Wharton. I think we could probably go and do Gomez. If not him, go and do Lewis Hall. Just trying to think. Senesi on a free, Mateta on a free as well. So you've got 5 players there. And what's that? 290 million. So I reckon you could get Carlos Baleba, Adam Wharton, Gomez, maybe Lewis Hall, Senesi, Mateta on a free, maybe, or maybe you could do Alex Scott. Maybe you take out Wharton. I don't know how much Alex Scott would be. I think that you could do, if you're smart, I reckon you could do 300 million and get 5 players. And get about 5 players. I do, and I think that is what we need to do. Look, and that's not including Højlund being sold as well. So look, Højlund will reduce that as well. Rashford, if he goes, the amortization money saved on that as well. So I think that we could do Lewis Hall. I mean, Lewis Hall would be very, very tricky, but look, I mean, we have. I think we've got to go get a left back or something. And again, I don't know. Exactly. No, I think the installments are there. Installments of Cunha and Co will also come in this season. Exactly. Amortization wise, look, I do another show, and I might do a show tomorrow. I'll do a show tomorrow. I could do I'll do a can we afford it show, and you can see it. I'll put it on screen, and we can see that. I would love to go for Lewis Skelly or Brown. Skelly for me. Look, do I want to give Arsenal £30 million for a player? I don't know. I like him, but I don't know. But if we're talking about these 2 players, so Tchouameni and Carlos Baleba, look, which one do I think? I think Carlos Baleba. I think that United, when it comes to Tchouameni, I think will shit the bed. I think that they will shit the bed. And the reason why I think that they will is because Tchouameni is on 240k a week. He's going to want at least 300 to 350,000 a week here. I don't think this club will do that. I think that they will shit the bed. I think that they will mess this deal up. I think they'll spin it. I think it's there to be done. I think we are interested in this player. I think that we'll shit the bed, and I think that we'll panic because I think he's going to want about 350k a week to come. And I don't think that this club has got the balls to do it. I wish that they did. I don't think they have. I don't think they've got the minerals. I don't think they've got the cojones. I don't think they've got that. Any progressive club, whether they like it or not, they have to pay the money. Now, look, I agree that in the past we've overpaid for players. But if you want the best of the best, whether we like it or not, some of your players, look, in life, whether people like it or not, if you are the best at your job, you get paid more. This club wants to go for top tier players and pay them, and this is going to sound weird, they want to get top players but pay them the wages of a championship player, right? If you want to go and get a Tchouameni who's 26 years old, in his prime, he's not injury prone, his stats are there, he is going to be, or is one of the best hybrid defensive players, right? You've got to pay him the money. Like Bruno Fernandes, if you want that player to remain at this club, you've got to go in and pay him the money. There's a reason why Kobbie Mainoo is not going to earn the same money as a Bruno Fernandes. It's something for Kobbie Mainoo to earn. If you bring in a midfielder and they are a good midfielder, well, you tell them the reason why these players are earning 350k, stop moaning and complaining and bitching. You get to their level. And then when you do, you can get paid that amount of money. But this club doesn't want to do that now. This club wants to go, well, you know, once they leave, the highest earner is going to be on £180,000. Well, then you don't get top players. So I think the one thing that's going to hold us back from this still, yeah, Dino, of course, Dino, stick it into the link. Yeah, stick it into the chat. Dino's got a fantastic channel, the Boxing Hub. So check it out. Look, the one thing that will stop us doing a mini deal will be INEOS. If they have ambition to go to the Champions League, look, he is number one in the Champions League this season for interceptions. We need Champions League players. So I think Tchouameni for me would be the one that I would probably go for. Carlos B as well. I would go for them both. Why not go for them both? But if I had to pick one, and I'm thinking about the Champions League, Carlos B, for me, look, he is the one that I think that we will go and get, and I'm happy with that. But if I was in charge of this club and I'm looking for somebody who's in their prime, because I think that's what we need to do. Well, you say that, Jarvis, you say that, but he's only been out 3 times. He's only been injured 3 times in the last year. So, I mean, unless I've got that wrong, he's only been injured 3 times in the last year or so. So it's not too bad. But look, you've got to go for the best of the best. But Carlos Baleba, I am not against the signing. You know how I feel about this player. I like this player. While other channels and other people are trying to put him down, I'm telling you, you get him, and he's going to be a fantastic player. So look, I'd be happy with either of these players. I think we need 1 or 2 of these players, and I think we're going to need more. But in terms of these players, look, I know people instantaneously this season, for whatever reason, will dismiss Carlos Baleba. I think it is it's a short-sighted thing to do, and I would say to you, don't sleep on this player, because I think he's going to be fantastic. Adam Wharton, I like Wharton as well, by the way. I do. If I was to pair players up, I'd go for Carlos Baleba and a Wharton. I think those two together would be fantastic. But look, yeah, please do check out the Boxing Hub. It is a fantastic channel. I'm on the fence, says Simon. No, Simon says no. Just go. Alex says minimum 60. Bristol City have a sell-on clause as well. According to the BBC Football, Barca want to have Russia on loan for another season instead of paying the 25 to 26 million, says Simon. I tell you what's going to happen. I know exactly what will happen. Barcelona and United will do a deal. I think what's going to happen is that Barcelona will loan him for another year, and basically we will get the £25 million over the next 3 years. I think we'll do a deal where we get a loan fee, they'll cover his wages, they'll do, I don't know, and then they'll do another 20 million over 3 years. I think what's going to happen is I think he's going to go to Barcelona, but it's going to be some weird hybrid, strange deal. But I think he's going to stay. I do. I'm on the fence about Carlos Baleba. City could afford Tchouameni. Exactly, no way these cheapskates will spend that amount of money, says Canada Dave Legend. Prince says, hi, what's up? Hello, Prince. We have paid so much on certain players which have turned out to be prize lemons, so let's spend wisely this time. I do agree with you. I don't think Tchouameni is a good idea. Question, why does Madrid want to sell? And do you know what? Ultimately, as well, you've raised the point, is that why do Madrid want to sell one of their best players? I have a mantra, which is I don't want to buy what Madrid want to sell. I want the players that Madrid do not want to sell. I question, the same as there, why do Madrid want to sell that player? And I think you make a fantastic point. As Tchouameni would be a better option because he's played in the big matches and he has more experience. Yes, I do not disagree with you. We don't want players 30 plus. This team will end up looking like Jurassic Park. I love it. Luke says that if we make the right signs, we're going to be in the race next year. About it, look, Luke, I like it. Look, I like the positivity. I do. I really do. I do hope you're right. Sadly, I don't share that view, but look, I do hope that you're right. Now that Rafinha is unemployed, Palace could have him. If Barca get the go ahead to purchase him to reduce the wage bill quick, you think that's why they want to keep the contract flexible? I basically think, look, we won him off of our books. Look, he's 300k a week or 350. We want to keep it flexible because, look, we want him gone. We want the wages gone, but we also want some sort of fee for him, right? So I think what we'll do is I think we'll be flexible, and I think we'll basically take the 25 to 26 million over the next 3 or 4 years. I think, look, we all know the Barcelona are cheapskates. They are cheapskates. They want their cake and eat it. They know they've got a player that doesn't want to come back to us. We know we need the player gone. So at the end of the day, I think sadly what's going to happen is I think he will go, but I think he'll go at a very, very cut price. Simon says, no, let's have a little look, see what we're saying. We're seeing it nearly as bad as a manager at Southgate. Let's see what the World Cup can throw up. Regardless of players, might be some wonders out there. Exactly. Rafinha sacked and Leicester relegated to League One, being a wild season across the board. No, it is. And the fact that Leicester City, I think what's happened to Leicester City as well is, look, it is a cautionary tale. It is. Arsenal 8517 legend. Welcome, my friend. It must be a nervous time to be an Arsenal fan. My condolences to Arsenal fans. Arsenal are still not out of it yet. I've watched a load of stuff, and look, I've got to take my hat off to some Arsenal fans who I've got to say have been very humble. I know a lot of fans, and they've been very, very humble. Arsenal fans, it's hard to believe that Leicester were Premier League champions. Yeah, it is, but I still believe that we can do it. Look, Arsenal fans out there, look, everybody is writing Arsenal off, right? You're still there. You're still there. Can you do it? The question is can you do it? Can you still do it? Of course you can. There are still quite a few number of games left to play. Look, this has been a topsy-turvy season, right? It's been up and down. City have found their stride, but City have been inconsistent a little bit as well. It's only been in the last 6 weeks they found their form. So if I was an Arsenal fan, look, I would hang on to the fact that it's been a very, very topsy-turvy season. So it is still there. It is still there. No, I mean, if to keep him flexible, if they want to say Haaland, they can cut Rashford and send him back. Look, you might have a point. Look, you may have a point. You know, could it be is that they are promising to buy him because actually there's nobody better out there, and they want to use him as a stopgap? I think you make a good point. I do. How did Shevchenko turn out to be such a flop? He was some striker in Italy and the Champions League. Who knows with Shevchenko? After 37 years supporting Arsenal, so I'm not buying into the bottling thing. Not the best time to support a London club. First Spurs, now Chelsea. Let's make it a London hat-trick and see Arteta go. Well said, my friend. City are back. Haaland back with the goals. If Arsenal lose the next game, then City will go for it. I'm hoping that both teams cut down to the wire. I think City. Look, I think Arsenal written off is. I think there's still quite a few games to go. Don't write them off just yet. Don't write them off. They've got to come into some form. So I would say if I was an Arsenal fan, I wouldn't be happy. I'd be on the edge of my seat. I do think, look, City have to win the game. I think if City win the game in hand, then I think that then possibly they will go on to win it. But City have to win the game first. They finish the sentence, JB. United at December will be okay. So, Dino, I will finish the sentence, and the sentence will be at Christmas. I think United will be. I think United will be fifth. Yeah, I do. I think we'll be fifth. Second against Scott. Arsenal have had more bottles than Oliver Reed. What do you think about Tonali or Bruno G? So the Bruno G thing, I think that's gone. I tell you, I think the Bruno G thing, I think we go back in for him if we're panic buy. If we panic buy and Tonali hasn't been sold, I think we panic buy him. I think we do. I think we like him. I think he's 28. I think he's going to be very, very expensive. And I think they're holding off because of the player's age. I think Bruno G comes into play if we panic buy. Tonali, forget about it. We've already put out there a month ago. We put some stuff out there basically saying that we were going to sign him last summer, or we looked at it and we've mentioned the gambling stuff. So forget about that. Are City or AC Milan bigger club? AC Milan. AC Milan. What a shame the City Arsenal game wasn't the last game. What a match has Scott. AC Milan are far bigger than City. Maybe not as successful in the recent times, but who do City and the bottle jobs have in their last game? Says Dino. Can you see two of Bruno's on the pitches? I don't know. I think it's going to be an interesting end to the season. I think he's going to swing. I think City are not going to have it their own way. I don't. I think it's going to swing again. I do. How has a better all-time 11 AC Milan or United? I think that who has a better all-time 11, AC Milan or United? I mean, look. I mean, if you're going to go back to Hullet, Maldini, Costa Curta, I'm just trying to think who is in that Milan side. Van Basten. I mean, look. I think it would be. I mean, that's a good question. I think it's a good question. I think that I think you could go either way. Obviously, I'm going to lean more towards the United side. You know, Roy Keane, Giggs, etc. But AC Milan. I mean, look, they've got some players. They've had some amazing players. I don't know, mate. Look, I think that's a good question. Obviously, I'm biased, and I'm not going to lie. I think our all-time 11 would beat AC Milan's, but at the same time, AC Milan. If you're an AC Milan fan, I mean, look, they've had some amazing plays. Weah, Van Basten, Hullet, I mean, Maldini, I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, and both teams in their eras, unplayable. So Tchouameni all day for me would be a great signing. Are United fans happy with the current keeper situation or still wanting a number one? No. Larmans for me, number one all day long. Fantastic player. Happy. I'm happy with Larmans. If I'm honest, says Dina, AC Milan. Look, AC Milan. Look, they are. AC Milan. Look, they are a fantastic player. But look, Dina, I'm biased. I'm biased. I am. Chelsea should have been told yesterday when I'm going to the coast to watch out for the seagulls. Wisdom says hi. Hello, Perlo. Yeah, Perlo. So Gattuso as well. Very, very underrated player. Here's my Dida, Cafu, Nesta, Desailly, Maldini, Seedorf, Hullet, Perlo, Kaka, Van Basten, Weah. I mean, look. I mean, look. That team there is just unbelievable, right? It's just unreal. It is just. I mean, if I was going to go, I mean, you know, look. I mean, if I was going to go, Schmeichel, Irwin, Yapstam, Rio, Keane, Scholes, Beckham, Giggs, Rooney. You could argue Rooney, Cantona. You could argue. I mean, I think it's close. I do. I think it's close. Hi JB says, Anish, hello. What we could do with a team like that today. Vidic says Arsenal. My 11 would be Van der Sar, Neville, Stam, Ferdinand, Irwin, Keane, Scholes, Beckham, Giggs, Rooney, and Cantona. I mean, look, those two teams, I mean, look, just unreal. I mean, unreal. I would go Schmeichel in there. I would do. Neville, Stam, Ferdinand, Irwin. Yeah. Keane, Scholesy. What about Ollie? Yeah, look, it's true. It is. It would be ridiculous, Dino, wouldn't it? It would be absolutely. It would be punch after punch. It would be unreal. I mean, those two sides would be absolutely fantastic. But look, guys, I am going to go. Fantastic show. Let me see what we're saying there. Do you still support Bruno out for next season? Look, I am not necessarily a supporter of Bruno Fernandes leaving the club. Look, I am not going to push him out, right? The only thing I've really got to say on Bruno Fernandes is this. Look, the future is not Bruno Fernandes. But if we get the right players, look, I don't necessarily want to see him go. But eventually we are going to have to transition. So, look, whatever Bruno Fernandes wants to do is up to him and the club. Do I want to force him out? No. Would I sell him? I would sell him. But not at the expense of trying to get him into this team. Look, we are Bruno Fernandes FC. Going forward, we can't be Bruno Fernandes. I've got no problem with Bruno Fernandes staying and being part of this team. Simple as that. My 11, it'd be Schmeichel. Tom Brown says, good evening all. I miss the Italian teams. So do I. Brian says, great team. Don't forget Ruud van Nistelrooy, of course. Oh, I just logged out and you're logged off. Have a great night. Sign another Portuguese. Players can't stay forever. It's only a team and not a member of the family. Exactly. Your shows are so late in India. I can't attend them. Sorry, my friend. Why shouldn't we allow him to go? We shouldn't allow him to go without a proper. Look, I don't disagree with that. Bruno Fernandes, we can't sell him without somebody who's going to come in. Look, I don't want to replace him. And the reason why I don't want to replace him is because I don't want to replace a player that everything goes around the player. I don't want a Cole Palmer FC. I don't want like another player. I want the Bruno Fernandes position replaced, but without having the Bruno Fernandes team. But look, I agree with you. We shouldn't let him go until we bring in another player. And I am 100% with you on that one. Schmeichel says Arsenal, Schmeichel, Neville, Rio, Vidic, Irwin, Keane, Scholesy, Cristiano, Giggsy, Rooney, and Cantona. Is 4-4-2 going back to the Premier League? Do you know what? I bloody hope it does. I love a 4-4-2. I am old school. I would prefer a hybrid 4-4-2. That is kind of where I'm at on it, but I do love a 4-4-2. But look, guys, yes, I am going to go. I will be back tomorrow as well. So look, hopefully you can come back tomorrow. My arm is bloody killing me now. Painful. Simon says, as great stream as ever, this is always a good stream. Hope you all have a good day. We are all one big legendary family. We are. Look, you guys, Simon, on this channel, you guys are absolute legends of this channel. Pilgrim says, hi, hello. Look, guys, I can't thank you enough for the support on this channel. Without you guys, this channel does not exist. So you guys are legends, and I appreciate all of the support as always, guys. So look, I love these shows. These late shows are my favorite shows to do. And look, guys, legends. And don't forget Boxing Hub as well. So check out the Boxing Hub as well. Fantastic channel and from a long-time supporter of this channel. So Dino, so please go and check that out as well. And look, guys, have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm JB. This is the United Devil channel, and I'll be back tomorrow. See you guys very soon. Take care.